Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on the Steam Deck. More importantly, getting you some emulation tutorials to play some of your favorite systems on this amazing handheld. And last week we did Final Burn Neo and I showed a few Neo Geo games and said I would do a Neo Geo specific tutorial because there are a lot of changes compared to the rest of Final Burn Neo and they are all important. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But getting Neo Geo running on the Steam Deck is absolutely awesome. I've been a fan of Neo Geo for over 20 years, and pretty much every game I'm showing you in this video I have an AES cartridge for on my shelf. It's similar to Final Burn Neo's last week's episode, but there are a lot more steps. They're not hard steps though, just follow along and we'll be fine. These are the files that I'm going to be adding to the Steam Deck, and you're going to see one of the most important ones is neogeo.zip. The Neo Geo on Final Burn Neo requires BIOS files, and this is going to bring over a lot of them. To make sure you have the right one, let's just open and look at the archive right now, and you're going to see as I scroll over all of the different ROMs that are in this archive, and you're going to notice that there's all of these UniBIOS ROMs as well. We're going to set up Final Burn Neo to exclusively use the UniBIOS because 99 out of 100 times that's exactly what you're going to want to do. It's going to open a lot more compatibility and fun for the Neo Geo, both on the AES and the MVS side, versus using a stock BIOS. Pretty much no one has their Neo Geo on a stock BIOS anymore, it's all UniBIOS. But we'll just go ahead and copy over all of the files we need onto a USB stick, a micro SD card with USB adapter, however you want to do it. I use exFAT formatting, I found it works the best. And now that we have those files over, let's just take a second to talk about the Universe BIOS and how incredible of a thing it is. Now, it's going to work slightly different on the Steam Deck for one reason. When I'm playing on my Neo Geo, I use Start and Select to access the in-game menu. Use ABC to get to the Universe BIOS menu on the second boot up. But if you use Start and Select on the Steam Deck, you're going to quit out to the OS. So I'm going to recommend to you use ABC plus Start. That way you don't just force quit to the desktop. That's going to be annoying every single time. Once you get that micro SD or USB drive into your dock, go ahead and click Mount and Open. This is the dock that I use. I will leave a link to the description below. I find it to be quite effective. I do not make any money off this link. It's not an affiliate link. It is just there to help you guys out. So pick whatever dock that has good reviews that you enjoy, and you'll have that USB port accessibility. I like this dock. It's affordable and it's worked perfectly for me since then. But now that we're over back onto desktop mode, you're going to see I'm going to copy that neogeo.zip file over to wherever we have EmuDeck 2 installed. You put the BIOS file in the root directory of BIOS. Don't make a separate folder for it. I already have it here so I could overwrite it. I'm just going to hit cancel, but this is where your neogeo.zip with the UniBIOS is going to go. Now if we go back one folder in the structure to emulation, this is where we're going to put the ROMs for the Neo Geo. But this is slightly confusing, or not confusing, but there's more than one way you could technically figure it out. You're going to see that there's a folder for Neo Geo. That would make the most sense, but we're using Final Burn Neo, so we're actually going to put all of these Neo Geo ROMs into the FB Neo folder. I scrolled a little bit too far up, but as I scroll down here, you're going to see FB Neo. If that's the emulator you're using, and this is the tutorial for it, that is where you want to put all your ROMs that are running in Final Burn Neo, including anything for the Neo Geo. So just go ahead and copy and paste, drag and drop, however you want to do it, those files from your USB drive or your hard drive, whatever you're using, and pop them in that FB Neo folder. This is going to get all of the games onto the system that you want to play. It's as simple as that. But if you get it in the wrong folder, Steam ROM Manager will not see the ROMs and they will not ingest to that kind of handheld version of SteamOS. And since I anticipate 99% of you are going to be using that, not desktop mode, that's what we're aiming for. So now that we have all those ROMs copied over, we're going to open up EmuDeck again, and we're going to go down to the bottom right hand corner and choose Tools and Stuff, and you'll see Steam ROM Manager. This is where all of the ROMs we just added are going to get their cover art, and they're going to ingest into the system. It does change the control, so just read the pop-up so you know how to control it. And we'll go up to Preview here, and then once we hit Preview, we're going to generate App List. Now I will say on the Final Burn Neo Geo side, getting cover art correct is hit or miss. Sometimes it comes through correctly, sometimes it comes through with nothing, and sometimes it gives you the completely wrong game. You'll see that some things in Final Burn Neo that aren't Neo Geo didn't pull any artwork, but if we scroll down a little bit further, we're going to see those Neo Geo games we just added, but it's going to come up with Puzzle Bobble 4. That is not a Neo Geo game. We just put on Puzzle Bobble. You can change the artwork. If you look at the bottom left hand corner of any entry, you're going to see a little photo icon with a plus. If you put the photos onto your SD card, you can put whatever artwork you want there. I'm not going to do it for the sake of the tutorial. Honestly, I don't really care if it doesn't match that much, but if you do see the artwork coming up incorrectly, it seems like Final Burn Neo stuff tends to do that the most. So be aware, it's not broken, it just didn't pull art. Go ahead and hit Save App List, and this is going to bring all those entries into the Handheld OS version of your Steam Deck, and we can just close out of all of this. We'll go ahead and launch right back to gaming mode so we can go ahead and start playing these games. You'll see here under Arcade FB Neo, that is where all the games are going to be. Some of the art won't be correct, you can change it if you want, but it is a nice clean look and I do love how it is. And it incorporates all different things, so you're not going to get a Neo Geo specific collection if you put all your ROMs in FB Neo, but I don't mind that so much. I like everything there. So let's go ahead and load up Power Instinct Matra Melee, one of my favorite games of all time, and now we're going to get into regional differences in games, because right now the soundtrack that's playing isn't too bad, but it is not the Matra Melee soundtrack we all know and love. Go ahead and listen to this next song for 25 seconds. It's much better, and I'll tell you how you can get it on your Steam Deck. Enjoy. Now, some games on the Neo Geo have regional differences. If we go into core options, we're going to see all the different options that Final Burn Neo allows. You can force 60 Hz if you want, but if you're playing a Neo Geo game, you're going to get a new menu that says Neo Geo Mode, and you'll see we're able to select all of the different BIOS options here. We've set it as Unibios. We can also set it as use BIOS settings in DIP switches, and if we go all the way down to DIPs, you're going to see that it is selecting a certain BIOS file. That's MVS Europe. Now, Matra Melee has a specific soundtrack for the Japanese region. Europe and US got something completely different, and it is not anywhere near as good. You can set your BIOS in here as well, but the Neo Geo games will do different things depending on what region they're in, including language and music, and some games will even do different things between MVS and AES. Just remember, if you change any settings, you have to reset the game. These settings will not adhere until you reset once. But speaking of regional differences, the same series will do different things depending on what entry you're on here. Taking a look at King of Fighters 95, playing this in an English ROM, you might notice something about Mai that is off. Now, I'm not using this example because I'm entertained by it, but it is one of the biggest examples in the Neo Geo. There is Mai, and then there's Bouncy Mai. They remove the animations from her chest. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it is how it works in Europe and North America. But if we go to soft reboot system, we can switch the region over to Japan and console, or Japan and arcade if we want. And now you will notice that those frames of animation are back. How do you get to this menu? Go, like I said earlier, it's start plus A, B, and C at the same time. That's how you'll access the Unibios in-game menu. Then you just hit soft reboot while holding down A, B, and C at the same time to get that menu. Let's move over to something like King of Fighters 2003. Putting it to AES mode gives you this entire options menu. If you're in MVS mode, you're just not going to get that. But you will see here that we have that same issue with the lack of frames of animation. And there's more than one way to change certain things. Like I said, same series, different entry, different way to handle articulating regional differences. Because you'll see here, and 2003 is a great game. If you've never played it, I highly recommend it. Bouncy Mai and Red Blood are going to be in the Unibios cheats menu versus King of Fighters 95, where they were in a regional lockout difference. So all you need to do is just add those codes in, and all of a sudden things will be working how you want. Now, you could just switch it over to Japanese, but you wouldn't get the English text here. It's basically a combination of however you want to do things. You can change the region, or you can use cheat codes in certain games. but I will say Neo Geo on Final Burn Neo is an excellent version of the Neo Geo hardware. It is very, very good, and you're going to love this. I love playing these games on the go. Something like Blazing Star is absolutely incredible. I will say for fighting games, the D-pad is decent. It is not my favorite thing in the world, and sometimes I do feel like it slightly drops diagonals, but soon I'm going to do a video on getting arcade sticks into your Steam Deck when it is docked, and well, I guess handheld too if you really want to do that. Leave me a comment down below if that's something you want to see. Now, Final Burn Neo does other options as well. I'm showing you Metal Slug X here that does have some slowdown, but Metal Slug 2 is really the game that slows down a lot more. And just running around the screen here to show you what it looks like, and if you've never played Metal Slug, you guys have to do it. If you go into the core options, you're going to see that there is a clock speed. You can increase the CPU clock of the Neo Geo, and that will reduce some slowdown in Metal Slug and Metal Slug 2. I always leave the slowdown as is, but that's just me. And you'll see here Puzzle Bobble, one of the most successful games on the Neo Geo. I just don't like calling it Bust a Move, so I make sure I'm playing in Japanese, and I get Puzzle Bobble versus Bust a Move on the title screen. But again, Neo Geo is filled with so many incredible games, you can't go wrong. And the nice thing about Final Burn Neo and the Unibios itself is if we play something like Neo Bomberman, only ever released for the MVS, it did not get an AES release, by default it is in a different language, Spanish, because it is playing as the European cart. But if we go over to soft reboot system and hold down A, B, and C, we can go ahead and switch the region up to Japan. We'll leave it as arcade because it is an arcade game, and now we're getting the English text. Same exact game, but now we can 100% understand what's going on. So I can't stress enough using the Unibios, changing the region of the hardware and flipping back and forth between MVS and AES if you want options menus or things like that, and making sure that your BIOS is selected as the Unibios. If for some reason you want to switch over to an AES BIOS or an MVS BIOS, you 100% can, but I recommend leaving it on the Unibios all the time. And we also have some settings as well for memory cards, because some games can save. I set it as per game, not shared. That way I know I'm never going to fill up a card. Honestly, it's kind of hard to fill up a card anyway because not every game saves. But if you want to save your progress, that is the way you do it via a virtual memory card. Once you have everything set up, you can just enjoy Neo Geo games. But remember what we talked about. If you have any stumbling blocks, go back and watch or leave me a comment down below. But what we need to do is make sure that we have that neogeo.zip with the Unibios installed in the BIOS directory, and we need to make sure that we set the Unibios as the BIOS of choice in the Neo Geo drop-down menu in Final Burn Neo. But even though I always love showing the No Man's Sky outro here because I love that star field, playing Neo Geo games on the Steam Deck in portable mode is a ton of fun. If you have any questions about this, do leave me that comment down below. And if there's any tutorial I haven't done yet that you really want to see, tell me down below and maybe I will make it as well. Short of that, now you know how to get Neo Geo running on your Steam Deck, so go ahead and start playing. See you guys next time. Bye bye.